All right, lovely. We just got to keep a watch on this stuff. And this week, Pepsi Cola. Pepsi Cola hits the spot. 12 full ounces. That's a lot. And, well, this is 16. So, I guess things have gotten better since the old time radio days and the old Pepsi commercials. Yes. Good morning from Riverton. And hope that we get a few of you that join us today. What is going on today's agenda? What's going on today? Of course, the big item that is really just dominating our culture right now and our everyday way of life is everything going on with COVID-19. And, so far, everybody over here is fine. Everybody in the family so far is fine over here. At least the one thing is that where we're out here, we're not in the city, so we don't have a lot of contact with the outside world. Not saying that we're isolationists or anything like that. It's just that if we want to go somewhere, it's like 15, 20 minutes away. If I want to go up to Cambridge or over to Delmar or to Salisbury, that's a huge drive. So, you get used to the local small town feel. And, we've been kind of self-isolating ourselves for quite a few years now since I've been out here in Riverton. It's definitely not the same as living in Tempe or living in Southern California. It is a very different lifestyle out here. And it's one that's I've been needing to get used to. And so I feel like I'm a little more prepared for what was, what came as far as preparations go and such like that. And unlike others, I did not have to hoard toilet paper. We had plenty of TP here because, again, we buy in bulk and we store it. We're not like preppers or anything like that, although Eva would love to see the zombie apocalypse happen. She's got her immune system is a little more is a little more sensitive than mine, and so I feel safer with me going out into public right now than her because of everything going on. And the interesting thing was I found out today, I read a short headline today that said that apparently there were some Chinese researchers out there that are now saying that those with type O blood, with the O blood type, are more resistant to the coronavirus COVID-19 than, I guess, others. So I guess that puts me a little more at an advantage too. So that was kind of relieving to see. And then I read the headline in the Wall Street Journal and read the article in Reuters that just totally blew me away this morning, and that was that apparently Christian religious broadcaster Trinity Broadcasting Network and a private investment firm right now are making an offer of over $4 billion, that's billion with a B, to acquire Tegna. Yes, Tegna. For those of you who are not familiar with Tegna, Tegna is a large television group owner with major network affiliates in quite a few markets, including Phoenix. and Atlanta and such. They were the old Gannett. Back in the days when Gannett owned television stations, which originally came from the old Combined Communications. They, I mean, I remember living in Atlanta while I was a kid, and with Combined Communications, WXIA combined also owned KPNX TV Channel 12. And then then it became Gannett, and then we saw the infamous Death Star logo. I'll have to find that one of these days and play that to you. It's the old Gannett G logo, and with this weird music in the background, and the thing spun around, and they called it the Death Star logo. It was kind of neat. But anyway, I'm gonna get a little political here, maybe slightly, which is something I try not to do on here. By the way, I did it right this time. Yes, comments go in the chat. Okay, anything we want to talk about, we'll talk about in the chat. Good morning, Brock. We'll discuss it in the chat. Of course, you want to try to derail me. That's how you do it. There I go. I did it again. That's how you do it. You get it in that chat over there. And you could try to derail the Michi, but I don't know. I'm a little concerned about this purchase of Tegna by Trinity Broadcasting, and I think it's mainly just because of the fact that right now we continue to lack diversity in the media, and especially in news reporting. And it's getting worse and worse every day. And and right now we have many markets have Sinclair stations, and when you have the owner of tens or dozens or hundreds of television stations, when you're having their corporate headquarters basically dictate the news that these local trusted stations are reading during their 5 and 6 o'clock newscasts, there's a problem. Now we're going to have the descendants of the Crouch family now dictating what goes over the Tegna stations. I mean, come on. I mean, you might as well just call the new company Baby Sinclair. Good morning, Joe. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately that's the way I see this. This is the way I see this. I see that TBN is trying to come in with another Sinclair. The only thing is, though, and this is going to be interesting to see how they do this, is going to be duopoly. If they were, let's say for a moment that Tegna was to acquire, or that TBN was to acquire Tegna, what would happen in some of their markets where they own, where TBN owns stations? Now, here's the thing. I don't know if they've changed this over the past few years, but the TBN stations, the O&O Trinity Broadcast Network stations like Channel 40 in Los Angeles, Channel 21 in Phoenix, these stations are licensed as commercial stations, even though they operate in a non-commercial-ish kind of mode. It is my understanding that these stations are licensed commercial, and that they are paying annual fees. I might be wrong on this. This might have changed, but I remember doing some research on this quite a few years ago, and that was the case. So now, if that is the case, that brings up the duopoly issues, and what would, especially like in the Phoenix market. Let's take the Phoenix market right now. So that would be channel. Well, let's see, Tegna unloaded, let's see, I'm trying to remember if Tegna unloaded 12. Because I thought Tegna unloaded 12 and they got 3, and then they eventually picked up 5. 5 used to be owned by Meredith, I believe. Let's go into FCC data and see here. But let me see who owns KTBK. Because that's KPHO Broadcasting, yada 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 yada. WXIA Atlanta. Let's see if they go. Let's see, that's Tegna. Okay, KPNX. I know that they own. Yeah. Okay. It is still Channel 12. It still owns. It is still Tegna that owns Channel 12, KPNX, which is the NBC affiliate. Now I believe they also own. Oh God, who is it they own? Do they own the? I'm not sure. I think they own the Telemundo in the Phoenix area. I believe they own the Telemundo. It's been so long since I've lived there. But what I'm saying is that they also TBN also has. I believe they still have Channel 21. Their local station there. The old it used to be It's KPAZ, yeah, and looks like they still have it. Let's see who's the Telemundo. KTAZ. Let's see who owns KTAZ. No, that's actually owned by that's an O&O. That's actually an NBC O&O station. Okay, so trying to let's see. Well, it's definitely not. TBN owns the station and Tegna owns 2. What's going to happen? Interesting stuff. But for right now, we're going to call them Baby Sinclair. There we go. Oh, sweet stuff. Sweet stuff. I know. Don't rub your face, Michi, but these hands are cleaned. Okay. Now remember that there are 20-second jingles out there. There's 20-second jingle ID cuts out there. So that way, if you are wanting to wash your hands, and you're needing to wash your hands, I should say, and you need to make sure that you're doing it for 20 seconds, then, there's TM's Big Time Radio cut number 1 will be that, not cut 10, cut 26, the morning song. That's about, I think, like 17 seconds. So if you kind of make the bugle a little bit more spread out, dun 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 dun, dun 407 1000. Okay, there you go. Good stuff this morning. Trying to stay off the coronavirus mood as much as possible here. I mean, there's been enough talk about that, but let's right now talk about renewals. Not much movement on the renewals. There's still we're at that point now where we're past the grace period. If they don't file at all, guess what? They lose their licenses. And I am, the one I'm on there, that KHEE, I've tried to contact them a few times. I've been getting a lot of pressure to contact them, and can't reach them. Can't reach them, people. You can't say, it's like what some others will say. You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. And, despite our best efforts, not every LPFM is going to renew. And, and probably every one of these has a story to them. And, it's up to them. They're the final responsibility, of whether they're going to renew or not. It's up to them. Yes, jingle talk time. All the time is jingle talk time. But yeah, you take TM's Big Time Radio, and it's the REC, the J1. The J1 jingle. Unfortunately, I'm not set up right now to play audio clips over this. Right now, we're just not set up to do that right now. But yeah, if we did, we'd definitely be playing some 20-second jingles. We might just do that on J1. We might just do a right at the top or at the bottom of the hour. Maybe we'll do it bottom of the hour. Maybe we'll do a hand washing break. And we'll say it's now a J1. It's a J1 wash your hands break. Remember to put your hands under the water and soap for 20 seconds. And to help you, Here's a jingle. Here's a 20-second jingle to get you through it. And yes, yes, it's always jingle time at REC. Much to Eva's chagrins, it is very much jingle time here at REC. Renewals for that are currently out there right now, and here's the current numbers right now. So far, about 1/3 of the LPFM stations have filed their renewals for Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee. Remember, these are due at the end of this month. These are due on, as we'll be talking about here in a bit, about the issues with the FCC. It is business as usual right now. The FCC's open. This is not a government shutdown. Everybody's working from home, but the FCC is open. Now, what I'm interested in knowing is how they're going to handle the upcoming meeting that is coming up for the FCC. The FCC monthly meeting that'll be coming up on March 31st, whether they're going to hold this live or whether they're going to video conference this. It's hard to say. They may hold it live without a peanut gallery. I'm not sure. It's going to be a pretty eerie one to deal with. Now, of course, there's really no superly earth-shattering items on this month's agenda. The big one is, I think the big, obviously this agenda is very heavy on video this month, but Shake and Stir, or what they're now calling Sure Staken, or Stir Shaken. When this originally came out, and when Chairman Pai was originally talking about this technology, he was calling it Shake and Stir. That's a perfect name. Why are they changing it around? I love the name Shake and Stir, and I'm going to continue to use Shake and Stir as the technology that enables voice service providers to verify that the caller ID information transmitted with a particular call matches the caller's number and provides valuable information to detect illegally spoofed calls. Widespread installation of Shake and Stir will reduce the effectiveness of illegal spoofing and allow law enforcement to identify bad actors and more easily and help voice service providers identify calls with illegally spoofed caller ID information before those calls reach their subscribers. More importantly, it will help restore America's trust in the voice network, which has been eroded by the prevalence of illegal caller ID spoofing. Well, I really, what I had said a long time ago recently was that the FCC, they really need to look at a caller ID, but somewhere deep in the system, whether it's through a control panel on a website or somewhere, we need to have some kind of like an IP address identifier. Now, the IP address would not necessarily be of the individual telephone subscriber, but it would be of the switching at the switch level. In the old Bell system terms, it would be like the old Class 5 switch. As far as where we go on that, and that would be a good thing if we can get that squared away. Ricky, I'll have some answers for your questions here in just a bit here, because I will be talking about the current accommodations right now that the FCC is going to be making on the issue of LPFM stations during the COVID-19 crisis here. So yeah, we will be talking about that. So the FCC in this, they're going to make a report in order. There's a report in order that's up for vote at this upcoming meeting. that will require all originating and terminating voice service providers to implement Shake and Stir in their networks by June 30th of 2021, and this is in accordance with a piece of legislation called the Traced Act. Proposed to extend, then there's a further notice of proposed rulemaking that's proposed to extend Shake and Stir to intermediate providers. So, you know, this would go back to, I guess this would mean like your VoIP providers, your Google Voices and stuff like that, are probably what they're looking at. Let's see here. Require voice service providers using non-IP technology to either upgrade their networks to IP to enable Shake and Stir, or to develop non-IP caller ID authentication technology and implement a robocall mitigation program in the interim. You know, I don't know. I guess there's still a lot of folks that are still a lot of infrastructure that is not IP. Goes to show you how long I've been out of that aspect of the industry. Establish a process in which a voice service provider may be exempt from Shake and Stir implementation mandate if the provider achieves certain implementation benchmarks. And this is the big one for consumers. Prohibit voice service providers from imposing additional line item charges on customer and small business bills for caller ID authentication. In other words, this needs to be a given. This needs to be included. This cannot be a nickel and dime. So yeah, I'm totally for Shake and Stir, and whether you call it stir shaken. See, I have a hard because I'm going to say sure staken. Stir shaken, steak and sure, steak and ale, shake and steak. I don't know. I could use a steak right now. That sounds good, especially right now since I can't find any meat in a supermarket. So yeah, I mean, you know, this is going to be a ton of fun. It's going to be, hey, let's go to the butcher. Let's see what the butchers have. Fortunately, we do have a couple good, you know, we do have one very good local butcher here in Delaware, which we get a lot of our meat from, and it's better than the crap that you buy at the supermarket, and much better than that science experiment that you get at Walmart. Never ever buy meat at a Walmart. That just does not. My throat is closing up right now, like I've got a peanut allergy or something, because that's just not right. Let's see here. DTS, which is the digital the digital transmission service system. What these are, basically, it's single frequency network, multiple transmitters for television. Think of it like a booster. Think of it like a television booster, but in a digital form. And because the way you can mesh digital transmitters together on a single frequency, you know, you could do some really amazing stuff. And I guess they're working on some new rules. Seeks comment. This is an NPRM to seek comment on amending the commission rules to permit, within certain limits, DTS signals to spill over beyond a station's authorized service contour by more than the minimal amount currently allowed. Seek comment on how DTS signals extending beyond their current service area should be treated for interference purposes if such spillover is allowed. Seek comments on potential impacts to other spectrum users such as TV translators and LPTV stations, including whether there are alternatives to the proposed rule changes that could accomplish the intended objectives. Seek comment on whether to modify the DTS rules as they relate to Class A and LPTV, and seek comment to whether and to what extent the proposed changes are also appropriate for stations broadcasting in ATSC 1.0, which is basically what we're using right now. Trust me, I am. I'm not quite on board with ATSC 3.0. I'm not quite on board with next gen TV. I was hoping, hoping that going to NAB this year would have enlightened me on this. But somebody did not want me to have fun this year and learn shit. So NAB is out this year. Hope so. We'll go ahead and hopefully we'll be able to do it next year. You know, keep that work coming in. Keep the work coming in. 1844 RECLPFM. Keep the work coming in, and that's how we stay doing what we do, and that's how we feed the family. And and don't worry, we're not going to hoard the toilet paper. Let's see what else is going on there. Let's see here. Significantly viewed market. Further notice of proposed rulemaking and proposed rulemaking. Seek comment on whether to update the methodology for determining a station's significantly viewed status. This is mainly for like areas like where I'm in right now, where we're a bit more rural. We have newer television stations, and in the past we've been more reliant on a distant location, in our case Baltimore, for receiving over-the-air television. I mean, of course, we're talking about the good old analog NTSC days, and so the cable companies would carry those channels on the legacy cable systems in these markets, and then the news stations would come on board. Eventually the TV stations out here would eventually come on board, and of course they're going to want carriage, and and they're also going to have the rights to like the network programming and such. And so we still get these other TV stations over the cable, but the network programming is blocked. So at 8 o'clock when they go to prime time, poof, there's a slate that comes up and says you got to watch you got to watch WBOC or whatever. So that's let's see, what are they saying here? In light of the changes in audience measurement practices, see comments to the extent to which Nielsen or other organization or entity is able to provide community-specific or system-specific over-the-air viewership data needed to determine a station's significantly viewed status today, particularly in smaller markets. See comment on what, if any, modifications or updates should be made to the current methodology for establishing whether a station is significantly viewed in a community outside of its local market. Seek comment on whether to update the definitions of the terms full network station, partial network station, and independent station in section 76.5 to reflect marketplace changes. Oh boy. Seek comment on whether the Commission has the statutory authority to modify the significantly viewed rules in respect to satellite carriers. In light of Section 122A2A of the Copyright Act, which limits the application of the statutory copyright license 76. So that's basically what we're going back to here. We're going back to the 70s and back to the baby days of cable. And now that we said baby, okay, all right. So there, and propose to interpret Section 340 of the Communications Act by allowing the Commission to amend the methodology for determining a station's significantly viewed status and the network definitions, and yada yada yada, provided that the satellite carriers and cable operators are subject to the same rules. For one, I kind of miss having the old New York and LA local stations coming in on the satellite. Remember that back in those days, back in the 80s? And if you could prove that you lived in an area that was outside the grade B of television, or you could prove that you get no signal, you could get the distant locals. I remember those days. And we were, well, let's just say we told Dish that we lived in a certain place, And we lived in Phoenix, but we were getting all the LA stations. It was awesome. It was awesome. And we were getting the New York stations too. So totally awesome. Those were good days. Last item on here is detariffing telephone access charges. Proposed to eliminate the ex ante pricing regulation of telephone access charges, specifically the subscriber line charge, the access recovery charge, and the prescribed inter-exchange carrier charge, line port charge, and special access surcharge. Ex ante. I had to look that up. That means based on forecasts rather than actual results. Proposes mandatory detariffing of telephone access charges. Proposes modification to Commission's truth in billing rules to explicitly prohibit all carriers from assessing any separate telephone access charges on customer bills after those charges are detariffed and deregulated. Propose ways to provide certainty in calculating contributions to the Universal Service Fund and other federal programming, as well as high-cost universal service support to assure stability in such funding and support following pricing deregulation and detariffing of the telephone access charges. The one charge that's on there is the subscriber line charge, and for those of us who've been around for quite a while, we remember this charge. It was a lot of the carriers called it the CALC, the customer access line charge. Trying to remember what Pacific Bell called it. They had a name for it too, and but originally, back in like 1984, 1985, right after the Bell system breakup, this fee was $1 a month. It would eventually go up to about $3.50 a month for residential customers. And I believe now if you have a line with a local exchange carrier like Verizon out here or AT&T in California, I think you're paying about $6 and change right now for the calc. You know, when I started running REC many years ago, when I started running the phone lines, we ran it off of measured rate residential phone lines in Los Angeles. And at the time, those lines were $4.45 a month per line. And flat rate residence was $8.25 a line. And then we had the $1 a month customer access charge, access fee. And so, I mean, so yeah, you know, and these days, you know, I've had landline service out here on Verizon, and just to have a local line, just to have basically a local 1FR without any real features on it, just a bare bones 1FR, without even a long distance, you know, without even long distance on it. I mean, I was paying like nearly, like almost like $40 a month for a 1FR out here, which is horrible. I mean, I was paying about $25 for about $25 or $30 a month for a 1FR when I lived in Phoenix. But keep in mind, the Phoenix local calling area was huge. I mean, huge. I mean, I could call places like 60 or 70 miles away, and it would still be considered a local call. What they did a long time ago was they decided that everything in the 602 area code, as it was known then you know, then came the other two area codes that went into Phoenix. Anything in that area code was a local call. So you could call, you could be in, you know, you could be in Apache Junction and call all the way out to Wickenburg, and it was a local call. Where before, when I lived out there the first time in around 1980, 1981, they had rate centers where they did charge, and it was kind of like California, where you could call your adjacent rate centers as a local call, and then everything else was long distance. Like we lived in, there was a Scottsdale exchange. We could call it like Phoenix, Tempe, Mesa, but Glendale was a toll call. You know, and you know, California is still technically that way, but of course these days with flat rate, everything types of service, You know, that's how things go. Ricky's like, oh, so you need more work? Great, I'll get right on it. Okay, yeah, that's the spirit. Now there, right? There I go again. There is a team player right there. How about them apples? I'm surprised you all have made it through all this. Apparently, President Trump has renominated Commissioner Michael O'Reilly for another term, and this is what Ajit Pai had to say on the nomination, saying that, quote, the president made the right choice. Commissioner O'Reilly and I have been working side by side for over 6 years, and he's not only a colleague but a good friend. He's made many contributions to the work of the commission, from his leadership on 3.5 gigahertz spectrum policy to his unwavering advocacy against state misuse of 911 funding. I look forward to continuing to work with Commissioner O'Reilly to advance the public interest and to hope the Senate will act quickly to confirm his nomination. Now, of course, a lot of us know Commissioner O'Reilly as the pirate slayer. With his work that he has done over time with the pirates, and really was very involved with making sure that the Pirate Act got through Congress and was passed. And like I said, as long as they don't, as long as the government doesn't abuse the Pirate Act and start using it to go after small-time Part 15 slightly, just happen to turn that little potentiometer up just a little too high. As long as they stay away from those folks and go for the people that are like in Boston, that are, we're hearing about more pirate stations. We've got AM pirates now in Boston, from my understanding. They're running full-blown commercials. This is a commercial enterprise, folks. This is not just a bunch of folks saying, hey, radio is just, the big broadcasters suck here. We need to do our own thing. It's not like that. It's not. These pirates these days are not the same rebels that were around back in the 90s and the 80s. They're not the same. They're not the Stephen Dunifers. They're not the activists. At least from a media justice perspective. They may be from a racial justice perspective, but they are not necessarily from a media justice perspective. And a lot of these are commercial enterprises. They're trying to make money. And, I'm sorry, but no matter where you see things on pirate radio, there's got to be a line drawn. And, my lines are overpower. I don't know the frequency off the top of my head. There's posts in, I think I saw that on, the I Love AM radio group. I thought I saw something about that, or on the Part 15. One of the groups had some information on that. Somebody had apparently monitored this. But when the pirates are going to AM, this is something you don't hear about a lot. Are AM pirates. And there used to be a lot more back in the old days in Southern California. We used to have pirates all the time on 830. Before KLAA, the Anaheim station, came on the air. Yeah, 830 was a popular 830 in Los Angeles back in the old days. That was a popular frequency for both pirates and drive-in movie theaters. A lot of the old drive-in movie theaters of the late 70s and 80s, they had those, where you drive in, and then they had those little suction cups that you'd put on your antenna. And then you tune your radio to 830 to hear the soundtrack. And that's yeah. So 830 has always been a popular frequency in Los Angeles for pirates and movie theaters. 1500 was also another popular frequency because that frequency should be in Los Angeles. It used to be in Los Angeles. It used to be the old KROQ AM. Yes, KROQ, the world famous K-Rock did have an AM station at one time, and it was 1500, licensed to Pasadena. That would eventually become KBBQ, or KBBQ would be somewhere in the mix there. KBBQ was your, good old country western music station. Had Pam's jingles, KBBQ in the valley, and they had and KBLA, which is no relationship to the KBLA that would eventually come back to 1580, which was once KDAY, K-Day, which I believe is now on 93.5 in Redondo Beach or something like that. It's interesting how the call letters all get jumbled around, but, if you look at the call letters history for Southern California, you'll see that a lot of the call letters pretty much stay where they're at. And, we tried to get the old KRKD, the original call, the more original call letters for 1150 back into Los Angeles, and of course that went everything went wrong on that, and there was a little bit there was actually a tragic story out of that one. Lost a good friend in the course of that negotiation that was going on. It was health issues. So anyway, coronavirus. Okay, here we are with our Corona, Norco, and Riverside updates. Yes, for those of you in Riverside County, these are your Corona updates. No, but seriously, for COVID-19, what's going on? FCC is open. Okay, folks, they're open. They're open for business. Pleading cycles, filing deadlines are not affected. The government is not in a shutdown. The FCC headquarters may be closed to visitors, but the FCC is working. Audio division staff is working from home. Staff has access to resources. Staff is processing applications, including STAs. And they have access. They may, I just think that just from the nature of the staff working from home and having to make more phone calls and video calls and more emails, there may be some delays in processing of applications, because you just can't walk this over to somebody's desk and say, hey, check this out. You can't do that right now because everybody's working in their own little cubbyhole. The social distancing is social distancing gone awry. So no, but seriously, that's pretty much what's happening. So, and we've been seeing pretty normal business from the FCC here. And, I do have to give snaps to Al Schuldner, Jim Bradshaw, Tom Hutton, Gary Lors, Dale Bickle, especially, who's handling the STAs. Everybody's working right now at the FCC. They're working under these really strange conditions, but you know what they're doing? They're pulling this off. And I'll tell you right now, every career person at the FCC right now deserves every bit of kudos that they can get right now. So, they're still working. They're still with us. And all's well at the FCC. Like I said, just expect probably a little bit of processing delay on the various issues. Let's go ahead and jump around a little bit here since we're on the FCC. These are the issues with that we are aware of right now. These are the clarifications, of course. Now, we talked about the vacation rule last week. This is for non-commercial stations, both full and low power, that are licensed actually to school districts, any kind of accredited school, public or private, that has classrooms, a curriculum, square pizza in the cafeteria. You are able to go silent without letting the FCC know, because it is considered off your school calendar. Currently, right now, the FCC is working 879 waiver requests on a case-by-case basis, a 73-879. And this is one of the things that Ricky was just talking about on here and asking about. And that is the rule that and this is a simple rule that's been in place since day one of the creation of LPFM, and that is 73879 just basically says that an LPFM station cannot retransmit the signals either terrestrially or otherwise of a full power radio station. Simple rule. The reason for this rule was very simple. It was to prevent LPFM stations from being used as translators. It's important to remember, though, that when the LPFM rules came out originally, a lot of this was styled around low power TV. Actually, the person who wrote RM 9242, one of the two rulemaking dockets that became MM docket 9925, which created the LPFM service, 9242 was written by a man named Roger Skinner. And Roger Skinner was at the time a speculator in the low power television industry. And what he wanted to see was an FM version of low power television. And that included the ability for radio stations to, low power radio stations to either originate programming, act as translators, and also, more importantly to him, was for them to be commercial. At the same time this was going on, in a parallel but synchronized universe, we had Prometheus Radio Project, we had other media rights groups and media justice groups and civic organizations and everybody else working the FCC and Congress from that angle on the fact that because of the Telecom Act of 1996, that media was going to get a lot more concentrated, and they were starting to see what was happening at a company once known as Clear Channel, now known as iHeartMedia, and how that all and how the consolidation has hurt radio. Now, of course, we've seen in the past few years the consolidation bubble is starting to burst, and that's not always, so that's, so we're seeing the errors of our ways starting to happen here. But until the NAB realizes that the real threat to radio in general is non-radio, and because they still think LPFM is the real threat to them. It's not. It's non-radio. It's your Spotify. It's your Apple Music. Your Amazon Music. Yes, even my Alexa here can be evil where it comes to that. And no, I don't think she's watching me. Alexa, are you there? Well, okay, well, it's good to know that she's there. Now, whether she is listening to this and sending this to, Bezos and Amazon headquarters, where the warehouse workers are, literally having to wear diapers because they're not getting breaks. Oh. Boy, I went off on this subject. Okay, back on track. Back on track, Nietzsche. Some questions based on the LPFM STAs that were approved yesterday. Does the STA approval allow the LPFMs to rebroadcast NCEs only or commercial as well? Okay, first of all, again, the main reason for the 73879, I just want to say it's because it was to prevent LPFMs from being used as full power translators. And this was done, obviously to prevent market speculation, to prevent people from filing for LPFMs for that reason and leaving out the community groups. The rule has worked for the past 20 years. The problem is the rule does not work for emergencies, whether it's this kind of an emergency with the virus, whether it is a more localized emergency, such as a brush fire, tornadoes, especially brush fire, that's something that spreads and will eventually reach you in time. Um, now, one of the stations I work with, we loopholed this 73879. There is a nice loophole that still allows you to use, external broadcast services and still follow this rule. See, 879 specifically says radio stations. It says nothing about TV. And what one station has done in the past is they pretty much have a blanket deal right now with one of the major local TV stations that says, hey, if something big is brewing down, we're going to carry, we have they've given them permission to carry their audio on a non-commercial basis. And technically, there is no rule against an LP TV station, LP FM station, rebroadcasting the audio of a television station. The only rules that would be in place is if there is a management agreement, a local marketing agreement, anything like that, where where there's an agreement, where there's money being handed. But if it's for an emergency, if it's for giving out emergency news, that's a different story. So what happened was the other day I had approached, I'd been getting comments over the weekend saying, we're in these isolated towns, we're in these small areas, we're surrounded by mountains. The local stations don't put a great signal into the area. The LPFM is the only signal that's really receivable on a portable radio. Is there something we can do to, if I can work it out with another station, is there any way we could, be able to bring in the other station's signal either on a part-time or full-time basis? And so the other day I had sent in a blanket waiver request to the FCC. And I said on that request, that what we want to do is we should allow a blanket waiver so that any LPFM station during the time of this national emergency and during any statewide emergency related to COVID-19, that they be allowed to carry the signal either part-time or, if necessary, full-time of a full-service, non-commercial educational station, as long as the LPFM station identifies every hour. And basically, we're just asking for a temporary waiver of 73879. Now, my scope was originally NCE and carrying full-service non-commercial stations, because I felt that would have been the least controversial of I didn't ask for commercial, and I just basically did that because, in my opinion, that would open up a new can of worms, especially if the FCC has no knowledge that it's going on. After I sent in that after I sent in that letter, which I did talk about very briefly on the Facebook page, if you go to the REC Network's filing page, you can find a copy of that filing there. What was it? Yesterday? It was day before. It was Tuesday. Sometime on Tuesday, a LPFM station in Colorado filed an STA, or actually they emailed an STA to Dale Bickle. They did it as a written STA request, not through a CDBS, and it was through an email. And of course, Bickle went in and wrote it out as an STA in CDBS and posted it and such, and they were granted a waiver of 73879 for a 3-month period, and that station, they're rebroadcasting a commercial station in that case, which, this is an emergency. I'm not going to get on my commercial showboat about this. Because obviously, yeah, I mean, yeah, the station may carry a commercial. Will the actual LPFM benefit from that commercial? No, not necessarily. The only thing that the LPFM station is benefiting from is getting content. In this situation, this was a case, I believe, where it was a school, and the school obviously had to close. So it was either shut down the transmitter and isolate the community because it was a mountain town in Colorado, or would they go ahead and get an agreement with a local commercial station to at least put a signal into the area, and that's what they've done. And so that made a lot of sense. Now, of course, when I was the one that I did put in an STA also, an individual STA, and that was for KBUU in Malibu. Now, you've heard me talk many times about this station. I visited them. I've stayed with Hans and for almost 2 weeks last summer. That is really, in some ways, because of their isolated location. And yes, Malibu, there is a bug crawling on my boom. Come on, where are you? Come on. There he is. There's a little bug crawling on my boom. Weird bugs we get here. Anyway, KBUU is in an area that's very prone to fires, to rock slides, flooding, tsunami, and especially brush fires. And of course, we had the Woolsey fire back in late 2018, which destroyed a good chunk of Malibu. And I had to, I checked out all the damage at that time. I still have some video and stuff. I just have no motivation to produce video right now. I've just got way too much going on. But we made this case, because what KBUU wanted to do was they wanted to rebroadcast portions of KCRW's NPR programming. They had clearance already from KCRW to do this. And the idea was that, see, first of all, KBUU does provide a fantastic local news within their community. I mean, they reach about 12,000 or so there in Malibu, and of course the people along PCH and such. And the thing is that, and I witnessed this firsthand when I was out there, was that, see, the problem with Malibu is that it is a community that is along a south-facing shore line in Southern California, and there's a lot of intervening terrain. Some of it that comes all the way down to the ocean, between where the transmitter sites are, Mount Wilson or Mount Harvard, Hollywood Hills, into that area. That area is kind of in this pocket. And if you drive in that area, if you drive along Pacific Coast Highway, you start losing all the LAFM stations. But once you go into the canyons, all these canyons that spill out to the south, you can't get any radio at all from Wilson or from Harvard or from any of the Southern California sites. You can't get it. You can't get it. They just don't come in. The one station that does come in, though, is the local Malibu KBU on 99.1. So our argument was very simple. Was that we wanted to be able to rebroadcast KCRW in these areas during this COVID virus period. The intention of KBU was to rebroadcast them on a part-time basis, maybe bringing in like All Things Considered, Morning Edition, and maybe some of the local programming. But they would take all the other time with their own local news, their own local features, and and keeping the music going, because we can't have bad news. If anybody has any questions, the chat's right there. Feel free to drop it in the chat. I don't even know if anybody's still watching this. I probably bored you all to sleep again. Because, that's what I do best. But, pretty soon when when reruns of Paul and Jan and her runny mascara end up on your local local major network affiliate station, yes, don't say I didn't warn you. Don't say I didn't warn you. Anyway, protecting your station. Remember these things, have your staff or volunteers get their own pop filters, clean the windscreens with soap and water. By the way, what is, what about, clean the windscreens with soap and water, mild bleach. Don't microwave your windscreens. I'm just picturing that. I'm just picturing the light show. Do remote programming and disposable microphone sponges like that. There's a disposable microphone sponge. Yes, these are the features that will keep you and your station safe. So, So yeah, if you're gonna party on the radio, party with protection. There you go. Last call. Anybody have anything they want to say? Anything they wanna comment about? Any questions in regards to the regarding the coronavirus handling? I will tell you that NAB and I believe now Ad Council does have pre-recorded PSAs available. You don't have to be an NAB member to carry the NAB spots. The NAB spots are available in English and Spanish. And I can even get you hooked up with Japanese coronavirus PSAs if you want. But yeah, and I have not had a chance to review what the Ad Council assets look like yet. So anyway, with that, I think we're going to say good night, good day. As always, if you need anything, there's the phone number, 1-844-REC-LPFM. And, of course, you can always write to me, lpfm@recnet.com. I am interested in your stories on handling COVID-19, on your coverage of the coronavirus, and what your station is doing specifically locally to support any efforts. As far as public education goes and such. And Brock says that we're using a coronavirus 411 each hour. Very good. Yeah, that is very good. Because, right now I've got to tread carefully with the FCC and tread carefully on this corona issue. But I think in the long run we're going to find that this pandemic issue is yet another reason why we need LP250 and why we need more building penetration. We cannot rely on the Spotifys and Amazon Musics and stuff like that to give us the local information. And we can't even rely on our news sources. And especially as more of our news sources get compromised, who are we going to rely on? Who are we going to trust? Who are we going to trust when, you've got crazy people running one major O&O news operation? When you got running one major news operation, and now you got this possibly coming to another one, and when national controls the local, You're asking for problems. Huge problems. And I'm sorry, but I can't. I can't support the Trinity Broadcasting Network acquisition of Tegna. That is just, destroying. It's leading us on a control of the media that I really would not like to see. I would like to see our media. I would like to see our mainstream media remain secular. And I mean, even Fox News is more secular than that. I mean, and you look at the frickin' you look at the Sinclair stations and what they've done. And the thing about the Sinclair stations is that they're broadcasting, they're broadcasting the same stories through all their news outlets. What were they running for a while? They were running that national security update thing that was a must carry for all the affiliates. Horrible. Marsh Johnson says we're using 2 times per hour COVID-19 information and PSAs, running update on social media, directing listeners to latest on social media. Yes, that is the way to do it. Just keep in mind that I would be providing some information over the air, because not everybody has access to social media. Not everybody has a data plan. Not everybody has easy access to internet. And especially now with the libraries closing, some people don't even have access at all, because they don't have a computer, they don't have internet access at home, they may be homeless, they may be in prison. Not everybody has, this is what we tend to forget, and the NAB has forgotten this. Sure the hell the FCC is starting to forget about this. Is that not everybody has access to the IP-based network. They don't have access to the internet. Not everybody can afford a phone. Not everybody can afford, even those that don't qualify for Lifeline but have their expenses in other places. Or maybe they can only afford a flip phone. When you have the big companies that are charging premiums just to have a smartphone. I don't know if they're still doing that, but they used to. It makes as much sense as the cable companies. One of the issues that I don't think we talked about it. I think there was an issue on, no, we didn't. There was one other issue that we didn't talk about on the commission agenda, which had to do with the fees that are paid back and forth between, one of the issues that's coming up is programming fees. And specifically, one of the issues is the retransmission consent fees that cable companies pay to local broadcast stations for the privilege of carrying their stations. Now, the thing is with that is you have like your CBS stations and your Fox network stations, and they can demand a huge amount of money from the cable companies because they've got the NFL. That's huge for them. And they use that, or if Fox gets this Super Bowl, they will dangle that carrot in front of the cable networks, in front of the satellite providers. This is why you sometimes hear about, if you have Comcast, you've lost all of your CBS stations across the country. This whole retransmission consent thing is a joke. If you ever look at your cable bill lately, if you have traditional cable service like I do, you'll see that there are fees on there. Right now, I think we're paying like a $10 or $12 a month local broadcast fee. That's up and above our normal cable rate. And what is that paying for? That is paying for all these retrans agreements. And mainly it's paying for football. And a lot of these, and a lot of this stuff. And then on top of that, we're also paying like $6 or $8 a month right now in, quote, regional sports fees. We have here in this market, in the Salisbury Ocean City market, we have 3 regional sports networks. We have we have the 2 Masson networks here, Mid-Atlantic Sports Network. One is for the Orioles, the other's for the Nationals. And then we have the NBC Sports Washington, which I believe covers the Capitals and the Wizards. I believe. And and so that's and so right now we're paying $6 or $8 a month right now for those channels. And honestly, I'm not. I mean, as much as they won the series, I'm not a huge Nationals fan. I'm not an Orioles fan. I can sit down and watch a game. But I'm a Dodger fan. I bleed Dodger blue. I always have bleeded Dodger blue. Even when I lived in Phoenix, both before and after, I was there for the first season of the Diamondbacks. I still bled Dodger blue. And now that I move out of Phoenix, they moved their spring training from Vero Beach to Cadillac Ranch, and now they're in. I go, they come. What the hell is this all about? But seriously, it's sad that we've gotten to a point where the local broadcast fees and the sports network surcharges on a cable bill are starting to come very close to the very low end of a Sling over the top service. What's wrong with this picture, people? Yeah, there's a lot of greed out there. I wish the FCC would do something about these retrans fees. The problem is that the networks have gotten too dependent on these fees, and I'm surprised that they are not fighting the OTT providers. And and again, is this going to eventually spell the eventual end of terrestrial television? If the cable networks can work out these deals, and these IP providers can work out these deals, who's going to need the why does a television station need 6 megahertz of spectrum? Or as we're saying right now in the Franken FM proceeding, why does a television station that thinks it's an FM broadcast station need 6 megahertz of spectrum? Why? Anyway, that's pretty much what's going on. I think next week we'll talk more about the various proceedings that are going on right now. Right now we're kind of in that flux right now where nothing is due. Next thing I think we've got in early April is the reply comments to the AM All Digital, the MA3. So, with that, let's see. Marsh says all local government offices and schools and restaurants and watering holes are closed in April through April. So you are correct. Although, that not all have digital access. We can only do what we can do, and that is right. I mean, and but definitely when keeping in mind when recording stuff for air, keep in mind that there are folks out there that may not always have access to the same resources that some of us do have access to. And not saying you got to stop your life for that, but just keep in mind. Not everybody who listens to a radio station has Facebook, more or less, internet access. So with that, I guess it's what have I got to do? I got to find bottled water. Too great. We do have access to better well water, but so we're not going to be completely desolate here. But if I can find bottled water, I will go for the bottled water instead. And also, we're looking for meat products. That's really we're looking for beef and chicken. And right now, we know that there is a shortage right now, at least here in this area, on chicken. We are produce. This is a produce, a poultry area. This is the poultry industry is in this area here. So, and so you've got your Purdue. Purdue was the one that spoke about it, and they said, yeah, there's going to be shortages here for a few days while they get production in order. So hopefully soon we'll be able to get chicken again. Haven't checked the Royal Farms yet to see what their status is. The drive-through restaurants are doing doing fairly well. Unfortunately for me, the nearest Hardee's or McDonald's is 15-20 minute drive from here. And the nearest In-N-Out is a plane ride to Dallas, Fort Worth, Phoenix, or L.A. Everybody, stay safe. Take precautions. Do what you can. Inform your listeners. But most importantly, keep yourself, keep your staff, keep your volunteers, keep everybody safe. And if you have any needs, feel free to call me and throw an idea by me. And I'm always interested in hearing what you all have to say. And I'm also interested in trying to work with you to try to work on a solution. And if there's something creative with the FCC that we've missed, then maybe we should look at that. The two issues that we brought up with the FCC so far have been the 73879 issue with the rebroadcasting of the full service stations. The other issue that we brought up is with the 50 or so LPFMs that are on the pledge list that have the main studio and local programming requirements technically, although the FCC is not really enforcing them. I did ask the FCC for a blanket waiver of those rules right now, more as a warm and fuzzy, so that way they are aware that these rules exist. The folks that are in some of the folks that are in the FCC now, especially at the leadership levels, at the Al Schuldner and Michelle Carey levels, they weren't around for the original days of LPFM. They may not totally understand the reason why we have what we have, but I'm grooming them the best I can. So, with that, again, stay safe, and good afternoon from Riverton.